famed author Clive Cussler,
the hero Dirk Pitt.
Good Lord, sweetie, you're not even dressed yet. Since you walked out on your husband, you mean. You're a classic case of an emotionally depressed and frustrated female. The worst kind, I might add.
Raise the Titanic. Episode 5. Sweet, nourishing meth.
It's prescribed for me. It's fine.
All right.
It's just, for me it is.
I'm sure there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. They're all just meth anyways.
Precisely. So,
Safe, nourishing meth.
how are you doing? Are your kids back in school yet?
Is it next week? Yeah, it is next week. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, for me too. I cannot wait.
I thought all you Americans went back in August.
I think it's just West Coast. It's confusing.
Okay.
We go after Labor Day, which is a made-up holiday, as they all are, but this one is for our soldiers. We have one to start the summer and one to end the summer. Labor Day used to be about celebrating the worker, but now it's always soldiers. People forget. They confuse it with Memorial Day, so now it's just become intertwined.
Just go back to the original Labor Day in May.
I think Ronald Reagan would burst into flames. There'd be a fire originating from his grave in California. Take out communist Canada, just because you said that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is Labor Day up here, too, at the beginning of September, because I think we just copied the Americans. And it is also just, here, have a day off. You've earned it. As opposed to International Workers' Day on May 1st, which has slightly different connotations.
It does have different connotations. I still don't get Labor Day sales, because what are you doing?
As a Canadian, I've been fascinated my entire life by the concept of Memorial Day is for barbecues, President's Day is for mattresses, I believe Veterans Day is
Intels.
football.
Veterans Day it's always celebrated on a Monday. Is it? No. It's the 11th, but usually the Monday nearest it, you get all for federal purposes. Because nobody's that excited. It's not like Christmas, where it's like, oh, it's the 25th. It has to be on the 25th. So.
Well, for us, it's always the 11th, no matter what.
Well, the 11th hour of the 11th month that makes sense. But I haven't been working a regular job in a long time, and I know for banking purposes, they just put it on the closest Monday for your day off. I've been noticing women, young ladies, their eyebrows all look weird. Has this hit Canada yet? Have your daughters done it to their eyebrows? They're doing these, they're painting them on or something.
Your video hanged for a few seconds, but I think I caught the gist of it at the end. No, I don't think my kids have done anything with their eyebrows. Is there new eyebrow stuff happening?
There's eyebrow stuff happening, and the women look odd. It's uncanny valley.
If they're the ones I'm thinking of, it's the ones where they put like the stencil over their face and spray paint it. Because the eyebrow looks
Was that how they're doing it?
several times larger than it should.
It's very strange looking, and they're all doing it. Oh, I'm just prepared for the noroviruses that are going to come this way. It was nonstop last year.
I can't hear that word without getting a little bit twitchy.
You're right. A shiver went up my own spine, and I said it. Cool.
Because years and years and years ago, I had a really bad case of that about a week before there was an outbreak in my city.
You were the vector?
So the running gag was I was typhoid topper for that. Because I kept working. I had a small child at home. I had another baby on the way. We didn't have any money, so I kept working. And it was on the 4th day. I'm like, okay, I really have to go to the hospital. Like, I feel absolutely terrible. And the doctor grabbed my head and yelled at me to stop going to work.
Oh my God.
He was pissed at me. So like, okay, I'm going to take 2 days off. I go home, I take 2 days off work. I feel better. I get the medication. I'll go back to work. And then there's immediately a norovirus outbreak in my town. And I'm like, that was my fault.
I'm glad you had the extra time to rest, but do you have to take out a whole town?
Not the whole town, surely.
We hit last year, my son on the way to the bathroom being upset, like grabbing my face and then turning to talk to me, just like throwing up in my mouth.
Oh.
Just It just by, like, the randomness of the way kids move, and he just did this, and then someone to talk to me, and just projectile vomit. God.
Yeah. Yeah, no, probably. I may have blocked out those memories, but I know they've all done horribly gross things like that.
They all do. It's the human condition. We don't know how gross we are. We forget. We have to forget. Or else, how can we how can adults do a G8 summit or Wall Street or even just go to work at a farm? It's undignified. You have to forget.
The one story like that I remember, just because it actually is pretty funny, is I think it was Easter, and we had a really, really fancy candy store in town. It was the first time we'd ever seen a fancy candy store that has all these import candies from Europe, and the kids got these really, really good fruity bonbons. We told them not to eat them all, right away, save some, space it out. Of course they didn't. We thought, oh, they're going to have a tummy ache. That's fine. So we we're going to visit the in-laws. We pull out of our house. We get a mile out of town, and there's just a fruity explosion from the back seat that I can feel it on the backs of my arms and up the back of my head.
My God.
And that was turning the car around and cleaning the entire car out with a hose. And the youngest was just I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It's okay. It happens. It's actually kind of funny. Just bright blue everywhere.
Oh, gosh.
Tell the in-laws we're going to be late. Everybody had a nap. We were all better, and we went again. But that so beats doing it in the middle of a long car ride.
You just knock it out in the end, get that set really in the fabric.
Yeah.
Oh, God. We learned to always have baby wipes and paper towels. Our daughter was 2. We went to visit family, and they were like, oh, there's a Swiss village nearby in the mountains. And we go, and it was the sharpest turns, left, right, left, right. It was like ziggy-zaggy.
Oh, we got one of those.
All the way there. We got to the Swiss village. She pulled a poltergeist in the back seat, or The Exorcist, or pea soup everywhere. My husband was drenched because she got him in the back of the head and just down the back of his shirt. He couldn't go in anywhere. I went and bought t-shirts for both of them.
Oh,
made a t-shirt diaper baby onesie out of a large adult size man t-shirt.
I've done that before. Yeah, you have to wear this for the next day and a half.
I was reading these chapters, and I thought, I don't know if I ever told you about my family friend Larry Doyle. He was on the USS Hornet.
Oh, I don't know anything about that, but carry on.
And he was in World War II. He joined up when he was 13 because he went home, and his mom died when he was young, and his dad was a gambler, fighting kind of guy, a tough guy. He's like, well, son, I got to go to jail tonight. There's no way around it. You got to figure your life out. He's like, well,
you're on your own.
Join the Navy. 13, time to join the Navy. So he joins up. The judge signs the paper. He had that in his office in his home for a long time because he was 13. He had no legal guardian, and he winds up on the Hornet, and he's watching a movie, and the screen catches fire. Wow. And he noticed it from the lower corner just burning up because it burnt up real fast. And he was like, "Oh, he's like, that doesn't happen all the time." And it took him 5 minutes. He's like, "Oh, we're sinking." And
oh, Jesus.
13 years old. Or maybe he was 14 by that point. And he was fine.
I was going to say, I hope he survived.
Well, now he's dead. Now he's incredibly dead. He went on to live until in his mid-90s.
Oh,
and
geez.
he was a heck of a guy.
Cool.
And he was engaged when he left, as you are at 13.
What year was this?
Goes for a few years. Would have been 42.
Okay, wow.
41, 42.
I mean, yeah, I read stories that take place in the 1930s and the 1940s, and it's really amazing the culture shift that happened before World War II and after World War II. So I can admit, before World War II, I can see, he's 13. He's got a little lady back home.
You're totally hung. I cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
The video died again. The video died for longer this time. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers, the only Clive Cussler podcast that made it 17 entire episodes without having major audio recording difficulties. I am your co-host Topper, and Nancy is not here because the recording session for this episode got completely chewed up and mangled and garbled, and we are missing the first 10 minutes of the recording after we do this intro. Now, fortunately, most of that was trying to reconcile the stupid nonsense that happened at the end of the last episode and Chapter 30, which is actually quite short. So I'm just going to recap Chapter 30, and then we'll rejoin the part of the recording that survived with Chapter 31. Chapter 30 is mostly Pitt and Sandecker arguing. They're having their own mini parlor scene, and they are both angry that the Titanic seems to be 6 entire miles from where it's supposed to be. Because, the Atlantic Ocean is very small, and they should be able to really pinpoint where the Titanic sank 80 years ago. They both think that it's going to take, weeks and weeks and months of searching, and they're going to burn through their whole budget just trying to find the Titanic. So Pitt has the great idea of, how about we just send the submarines to exactly where the Titanic is? Skip all the searching, just go to where it is. And everyone stares at him like he's an idiot, because he kind of is, if you're going to lead with that without explaining anything, and he waits a long time before he explains, and says, how about we just take every piece of data, every recording, every note, every first-hand, second-hand, third-hand account of the night the Titanic sank, and feed all of it into Numa's supercomputers. And I bet that will spit out the exact location. And it'll take about 2 days. By that time, we'll have the Modoc and the Sea Slug ready to go, heading towards the Grand Banks, and we can just send them the Titanic's exact location. And everyone's like, oh my God, Dirk, you're so correct. It's 1976/1987. Supercomputers can do anything. So they start punching all the information into Numa's supercomputers, which can do anything. Is that Superman 3? Is that when Richard Pryor invents the supercomputer that can do anything? They have that in this book. Anyway, after that, we segue to Chapter 31, which is a long car ride with Donner and Seagram already in progress. Because it's a very short chapter. It's one car ride that took me by surprise. And it's Seagram says that if the Russians could build a working system in 30 months, if they got the Byzanium, if they got to the Titanic first, if Kemper, the naval chief of staff that we met in the last episode, lets the Russians get the Byzanium, if Kemper is a secret commie, where does any of that come from? Why is Seagram just this plan's also stupid? And also, if the highest naval officer in the country is a communist, everything could go to hell. Why would you think that, or assume that, or tell Donner that, or go through any of this? What's going on?
I imagine something was edited out of this. But you know how you read something, or you watch something that you're putting together, you see all the pieces, but you can't see the whole picture because you're just too close. I think that happened to him. I think he excised some part of a plot that hit the cutting room floor, that had some extemporaneous detail that we really need to establish why it's a sound thought that the head of the naval, the Department of the Navy is a commie. That people should jump on him and be like, what? This is very strange. This is an accusation that is coming out of left field.
This book spends so much time nerding out about naval history. It devotes a lot of time to all the Russian players that are involved with this. They devote a lot of time to Seagram's marriage to Dana, and it's just two incredibly short sections of 2 incredibly short chapters about leaking this to the Russians and why that's bad and why someone's a commie.
Yes.
And that feels like a C-plot that got added and was not tied into anything else just yet.
But it does feel...
We have to make everyone more paranoid.
Kind of authentic, because you could have 2 paranoid government agents deciding the fate of the universe, all on their own, with emotional turmoil and
see, that I like.
Complicated home matters. That's, their decisions might have an outpaced or an outsized in proportion to their own existence kind of impact on the world. That happens. It just takes one guy to push the button, right?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely like the implications. It just seems that in the text, it pops up kind of out of nowhere. It's very sudden. Absolutely.
And the other guy goes along with it.
Oh my God, you're right.
I blame the lead in the gasoline.
Oh, yeah.
And then we start chapter 32, and Pavel is back. We're back in Russia.
Pavel Margonian.
And Pavel is groveling bootlicker to, what's his name?
Captain Prevlov.
Oh, Prevlov. Yes, Prevlov, the Russian Dirk Pitt, who's always in control, has to deal with Pavel, and he's reprimanding him, and he's like, there's hidden meaning in everything. Mm-hmm. Why is this Numa vessel changing course? Why is...
You idiot, you fool, why do I have to explain such basic national intelligence things to you?
It's like the placement of a comma.
Yes.
A tiny scrap of paper everything could lead to unraveling the mystery. And this is how we got to Q and chemtrails and gay toads, because there's meaning in everything.
There's meaning in every comma, meaning in every typo, every tweet, every covfefe.
Oh, confefe. That one. I can't believe we had to live through that. What does it mean?
I can't believe that was in the news cycle. Like, professional journalists had to talk about that for a week.
Yeah. It was our shining moment as a country.
I feel it all started to go downhill around covfefe.
It was so downhill before then. It was, where's a grassy knoll when you need one? Pablo gets his dressing down, and then he goes to the restroom and gets a secret envelope. I can't read my handwriting here. He gets a spy envelope, not a sex envelope. He gets a spy envelope in the restaurant men's room.
This is 6:40 p.m. That they established they would meet last time when they met in the park.
So now they're meeting in the men's room, and Pablo meets a fat guy. Gives him he's incredibly obese. This is mentioned 2 or 3 times in that one paragraph. And
he's some muckety muck at the KGB.
Yes. He drops the envelope. Sally, you drop this. Pablo takes it, and now he is the king of the castle.
Oh yeah. In a few chapters, when Margonian pops back up, oh, he's just a dick. It's kind of great, actually.
It is. If you've ever had a boss you wanted to punch in the face, this is the next chapter is for you. Well, the chapter after the next chapter.
Yeah.
Look at there.
Chapter 33 is, I don't know if, because I have the audiobook, I don't know if that was just like one page in the book or what, but that was just, and then it was gone. But there are a couple of good lines in that chapter if you want to take this one away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, I will. I'll take this. So Seagram gets a Dear John letter from his wife, Dana, and she hates to leave him. She loves him with all of her heart, but it's just too difficult to love him when he keeps rejecting her. She's too fragile to endure the endless rejection. So she writes in her Dear John letter, forgive my female frailty. Oh,
I wrote that down
yourself,
too.
Lady.
That was the one line I was going to bring up. I just like, forgive my feminine frailty. Oh, Clive, so close.
Fuck this girl with a duck. No way.
Wait till we get to the next chapter. I got a lot of stuff for the next chapter.
For every war a woman's had to endure because her husband ran off to join in the first wave and she's got to keep the kids alive and get raped by the battalion that's walking through in the mud while she hides her kids in the basement, or every night witch, or a lady digging trenches in World War I, because that happened left and right too, because they were right up against farmland a lot of times. We die bringing humans into this world. We take care of them. Men go for cigarettes and never come back. Yet women are the frail ones?
Yeah. Up until now, think about the most powerful female character we've met. Sorry, woman character. Woman character sounds weird. Female character, I just can't say female without cringing a little bit, just because I know the implications, thanks to men completely ruining that word. The most powerful lady that we've met in these 3 books, and that would have been Terry from book 1, who is a Interpol DEA drug enforcement agent, and all she does is wear lingerie and get kidnapped.
Oh, yes.
That's the most agency a woman has had in these books. They do get better later on because...
Refer back to...
and TD.
TD.
Not to spoil too much, for 10 books, Dirk Pitt has an on-again, off-again thing with a lady congresswoman who is a tough, empowered female character who actually seems fairly well written, even if all of her clothes fall off the second she's around Dirk. But we do get a recurring, interesting woman later on. We're not there yet.
Maybe he's radioactive, or it gives off a bleach efflorescence. It weakens the fabric. In the meantime, we've learned that Dana has moved in with her friend Marie, who's a bit of a thundercoat. She's really
I didn't say that.
Why are you here? Go back and support your man. Don't you think he needs you right now? It's really hard for him. Have you thought about him?
Oh man, yeah, because they have 2 conversations. They have one conversation while Dana is standing in front of her closet, quote, going through the feminine ritual of deciding what to wear.
Sure, because men never look at their clothes and say, what's clean, what's dirty, what smells okay enough to wear in public.
Have you missed the last book?
What matches?
Dirk and the Rainbow Technicolor Explosion? But then Clive describes Marie very strangely, half complimentary and then ending it with, she was almost provocative were it not for her square chin.
Yeah, she's got a lantern jaw. Lady's like
Why was that thrown in?
a real Greta Van Susteren over there.
Yeah.
A Greta Van Susteren for your youngins was this lady who had this massive jaw, but she was really smart. She was a criminologist, and she was made famous during the O.J. Simpson trial. And then she was hired by Fox News and had a lot of plastic surgery to get rid of said lantern jaw.
Oh, good for her, I guess.
You can look at before and after pictures. Well, patriarchy, lots of surgery, but lots of money. I don't know where go get your bag, go get your money.
It's Fox News.
But also,
if you're a lady on Fox News, I think you all have surgery to eventually become the same blonde woman.
oh yes,
Everyone's seen that meme.
it's mandatory.
But anyway, Marie talks until Dana starts about to cry, and Marie could see that an emotional crying jag was coming on, so she beat a retreat. And then Dana immediately downs...
Like your good friend.
Dana immediately downs 2 Librium, which I had to look up. That was the first commercial benzodiazepine.
Great.
Which was later on tweaked, and the tweaked version became Valium, and they still sell Librium now as Limbitrol.
I looked it up, and they said it was for fear of hospital procedures, fear of heights. It's supposed to be a hypnotic pre-Xanax kind of pill, so you take you will kind of forget moments of time.
Oh, that's fine.
Once around you took it, like a roofie, like a light roofie.
I'm sure you're only forgetting bad things.
Since
it's not like a take one a day thing. It's just like pop a bunch when you feel stressed out.
Yes. So she takes 2 because her man
the good old days.
is so bad. She has to take experimental Valium.
Yeah.
And then she gets ready right away. She gets ready right away and just does the following things. Takes 2 Proto-Valium. Waits for the drugs to take effect. Puts on a dress. Straightens her hair. Picks out shoes. And then she's ready to go. Marie's waiting in the car. This would have all taken like 4 hours.
Yeah.
If we're doing this with Clive Cussler misogyny math, she picked out a dress and shoes.
My God, these pills are amazing.
I've never seen that color purple.
And I had to write down 4 lines from their conversation in the car because they're driving to work. She has just popped 2 benzos before going to work at a government agency.
The thing where she'll have her morning martini and it'll be fine.
I guess 5 lines, because once Dana pops in and says, okay, ready to go, Marie says, since you're not a bitch anymore, did you pop 1 pill or 2?
So her drug use is not a cry for help. It's just a punchline.
Yeah.
They don't even circle back to it.
Seagram is trying to save the world, and Dana, this druggie who won't have a baby with him, is off living with a female.
And she says, you don't understand it. A man accepts the thankless burden of responsibility. Let me say that again. A man accepts the thankless burden of responsibility. We women never do.
Oh yeah, immediately followed by, we don't plan ahead like men do.
Oh yes, I have that. Oh my God. We don't plan ahead like men do. Second Iraq War?
Marie calls Dana the worst kind of female. Marie's big argument is he sounds like he's due for a mental breakdown. If you had an ounce of guts, you'd stick it out with him.
No, that's how you get murdered.
She's telling her to go back to the guy who's about to crack.
He's mentally unstable and you're on pills that put you in a coma. You should really go back. This is the safest time to go back to your abusive spouse.
After leaving him the Dear John that says, don't contact me.
No, they're both spiraling, but it's fine because it's 1987 and we'll just go to an EST meeting or something.
And one of the ones near the end, I might just have to drop this audio clip in just because I'm not sure I can capture the disdain of the reader, but
I'm not about to play the liberated female and jump onto every penis that wanders across my path.
No, you don't jump on penises. You use them like handles.
Marie wants her to get back out there and get dating because it's super easy.
And really, but what is Marie about? Does she want her to go back to her husband and be the obedient wife?
Apparently.
Or does she want her to be the town punk? Which is it, Marie? What's going to make you happy? I'm guessing nothing's going to make Marie happy. She's got her crooked jaw and she's miserable.
She completely changes sides. It was like, you suck. You're the worst kind of woman. Go back to your husband. Well, since you're not, I've got some men I can set you up with.
Yeah, she's bringing them by for lunch. I mean,
yeah.
Dana can practically order one off the menu. It's that easy.
I knew this chapter was going to last for a while on this episode. Also, I talked to my wife, who is now done watching the movie, and We haven't talked too much.
Just give her a present.
Oh, I'm going to. We haven't talked too much because we don't want to ruin the banter. But there's apparently two short...
Save it for her.
There's apparently in the movie only 2 short scenes with one woman. And it seemed like that plot was added on. And I'm like, oh, wow, they either compressed or cut a lot of Dana from the movie. But from the bits I've seen, because she watches it on her laptop next to me sometimes, it took her like 5 tries to get through the movie.
Oh.
As far as I can tell, they've left everything else in. So they only cut the women.
It's not like he was going to pass the Bechdel test ahead of time anyway. This was so estrogen laden. This story, they had to cut the women. It was like Steel Magnolias. What were they going to do? It was just hens yammering away.
Anyway, chapter 35. This is entirely a nerd chapter. This is research.
It is.
This is oceanography. This is a nerd chapter.
We meet Dr. Murray Silverstein, and I love this because I love people named Murray.
Yes.
You're never going to meet a bad person named Murray.
They're always good Murrays.
And I don't think Clive has ever met a Murray because he made this Murray be a fan of Chardonnay. You don't make Dr. Murray Silverstein a wine mom. Chardonnay. But Dr. Murray's got a Titanic simulation going on.
Yes, they're at the Alexandria College of Oceanography, and they have one of those gigantic indoor water tanks that's like 30 feet high and 200 feet across, and they use that to simulate boats sinking, basically. They sink a boat, they raise a boat, They do it over and over.
It's while I was reading this that I remembered my family friend Larry Doyle, because he described the sensation of the boat sinking, or ship, as it were. And he was like, you really do have time to feel everything.
Yeah, it's not fast.
You think it'd be fast.
No, I remember that from Lions Led by Donkeys. They had a whole, I don't know how many episodes it was, on the Pacific Theater in World War II. And there were battleships that like basically were completely holed and shot through on one day and were still kind of sinking the next day.
It was just something that had not occurred to him when he was telling it, because he read about it in Pulp Fiction books. But he didn't ever have a ton of money to go to movies or so forth. It wasn't like he saw Leo in the Titanic. And whenever he would read fictional accounts of ships sinking, it was as fast as he could read it. It is very different when you're suddenly 13 and in the Navy. And then you have time to smell gasoline and feel the cold water, and really it lights all the senses, apparently. You have adrenaline, exhaustion, cold, fear of death, fear of water, fear of the guy next to you, because he might push you down. You might get a bum life jacket. Oh, there's lots of thoughts happening.
Yeah. One of the neat things about the nerding out in this chapter is, I guess this was the theory at the time, based on the noises people heard and the reports given from people who were rescued from the Titanic. But in order to make the model of the Titanic sinking in this huge tank accurate, they have it filled with marbles, and they've drilled some extra holes in the boat. And Sandecker asks, like, what's that for? And apparently all the boilers ripped free of their moorings and fell out of the boat when it went up on its nose.
And
all these like 1,000-ton boilers just rattled around and fell out and punched their own holes on the way out.
I loved the way this was written because that's terrifying.
Yes.
It actually took my breath away. Could you imagine? You're just some poor bastard stuck in steerage, because if you have steerage, it makes first class that much better. Just the juxtaposition. The champagne has more bubbles if there's a steerage. That's just science. So you're locked in steerage, water's coming up, you're like, okay, you're making your peace with God, you're gonna drown. You and your family, you're not gonna die in the potato famine, you're going to just drown in the ocean. And suddenly a big wall comes rolling towards you and just wipes you out.
A cast iron...
While you're busy drowning. That seemed rude.
A cast iron boiler, the actual size of a house. They're like 30 feet across and 20 feet high. That's like a little house made of metal and filled with water, filled with boiling water. This is terrible.
Just is worse. Every word, you're making it worse.
And there's 20 of them. There's 20 or 30 of these things. There's a lot of boilers.
This is incredibly unfair.
It's the worst Plinko machine.
If you've ever seen Galaxy Quest, why is there a stompy room? This doesn't make any sense.
Whoever wrote this episode should die!
Oh my God. That scene is... I laugh so hard every time I see that scene, just start to finish.
We didn't know that movie was going to be good. Galaxy Quest is a movie that makes fun of sci-fi Star Trek movies. It came out in the 90s. We went to Blockbuster, risked parking space, because in Brooklyn, if you left your parking space, you had to like camp out for days until you can go back home and get another one. So we did that. We went to Blockbuster. We got the movie they had left was Galaxy Quest. Never heard of it. This is going to be a dud. It was one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. Just the low expectations.
Yeah.
The salt of low expectations makes everything so much better. Oh.
And it still holds up today. It's still funny. And I mean, the negative drag factor of the lead role being Tim Allen, like at the peak of his Tim Allen powers, is definitely mollified by, oh God, son of a bitch, why can't I remember his name?
Oh, Sigourney Weaver, by the sword of Hrothgar.
Alan Rickman.
Who has a meatball recipe that is kick-ass, by the way.
The awesomeness of Alan Rickman in this movie definitely overshadows Tim Allen, who is just playing like an asshole Captain Kirk. And this is also the movie that gave us Justin Long in his very first role ever.
No.
Yeah.
That cannot be true. He had to be in some teen dream thing before then, because wasn't he like 30 by the time he got to that movie? He's always looked 30. He's never looked younger. He's never looked older. I don't know. I haven't seen him lately. Oh, no, he was in that movie last year. Oh, he played
Wait, what? Okay, so I know that movie has Justin Long, but I can't remember if that was his first movie or if that was Sam Rockwell's first movie. I think it was Sam Rockwell.
I think it was Sam Rockwell's first movie.
Okay.
The guy eating the popcorn?
No, Sam Rockwell was the guy who was like an extra in one episode.
No, he doesn't have a name.
He plays Guy.
It was Monk who was eating the popcorn.
Guy Fleegman. Oh my God, Monk was so great. He is permanently stoned.
He's inside out, and he exploded.
No, Justin Long, 99, Galaxy Quest, his first role, and he wasn't in Jeepers Creepers for 2 more years after that.
He was in a
goddamn
horror movie last year.
I know he was in Tusk.
This guy, I didn't see Tusk. Welcome to another episode of I Will Describe a Movie to Topper.
Well, I try and guess.
Because I can remember every detail except for the name of the movie. It was a horror movie. It's a girl, she goes to Detroit, stays at an Airbnb. Oh. Turns out there's a haunted thing underneath.
Frick, Barbarian. That was an amazing movie.
Yes, that's it. It was for the real estate jokes. I mean, he's under there with the measuring tape, and I'm like, yes, exactly.
Well, yeah, and apparently Galaxy Quest was Sam Rockwell's first major role. He was in Tiny Things before that.
The movie called Tiny Things, or just Tiny Things? Like Tiny Animals?
Just very tiny things. He played a prisoner for a couple of scenes in The Green Mile, and he had like 2 lines and lawn dogs, and that was it. And then he was like one of the main cast in Galaxy Quest. So that movie launched a couple careers.
Well, anybody's going to be tiny next to Michael Clark Duncan in The Green Mile.
God, yes. He was so great in that.
Oh, yeah, he was.
All right. So that's what happens when a chapter is nothing but oceanography facts.
Yes, it is. We're going to just a long turn. Whoa, did we have a tangent?
We start talking about movies that we enjoyed more.
We got off the highway. Did we cut off the highway to see the giant rubber bands instead of going to Grandma's house?
And then we get chapter 36.
Chapter 36.
Which is a huge chapter.
Yes, Dirk and Al are back together.
I don't want to say not a lot happens. I just feel that they put a lot of words into what is essentially, this is the chapter where they find the Titanic.
Yes. And that tone you just did there, where they find the Titanic. That breathless movie man voice, that is the ambiance of this whole thing. Dirk Pitt and Al Guardino are back together again. Regular Eric and Dylan.
Yes. This is the first time they've been back since the end of the Mediterranean Caper. So many episodes.
And they use the nautical term, "where away," which is a great term. How far away are you? In what direction? How long does it take to get to you? All conveyed in 2 words.
We're away.
Brilliant term. Should be used in common parlance.
Also, one line I had to write down. Guardino knew all the facts. If the unthinkable happened, an accident at 12,000 feet, there'd be no hope of rescue. A quick death would be the only prayer against slow asphyxiation in total darkness. Oddly relevant again.
Yeah. Again, I go back to that Titan submersible, Titan 1, that press officer for the U.S. Coast Guard who had to field the questions. Did not envy that guy when they were like, well, what if you find them? And they're intact. What do we do? We'll put a pin in that.
Wave.
But no actual pins. But we'll get back to that. We'll circle back. We'll watch them die slowly on TV.
1 second, Mike. My phone's ringing again.
All right.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No.
My folks never call when it's convenient.
Look at you, parents that are alive. Show off.
So we get some fun backstory with Al and Dirk, because anytime they're in the same room together, there is this weird sort of, when they have the love filter on Star Trek, when they look at a sexy alien and everything gets all fuzzy, that happens whenever Al looks at Pitt.
It's the sweat in his eyes because he's not well-groomed.
Yeah, so there's backstory about how they knew each other back in high school, and they used to race hot rods on Newport Beach, and he knew Pitt better than any man alive, or any woman. And then he does the whole thing that he does in every book about how Pitt has two identities, the friendly Pitt and the murder Pitt.
It's like he contains multitudes, like a person.
Multitudes of two. Yes, but if you have a friend who is either super charismatic or a coldly efficient killing machine, he's a psychopath who's good at masking. That's what that means.
Yes, that's what that means.
Like, yes, people contain multitudes. Not everybody has a multitude that's going to shoot a Russian in the face with a silenced pistol in the north of Russia when you're just asked to go pick up a scientist.
That's why I said they're real Eric and Dylan. That's a Columbine reference. Al's a follower.
Yeah.
For all of his love for Dirk, he's a follower. And these two guys, Al would rather join Numa, an agency that has jurisdiction in your backyard pool, above ground even, than go to therapy and get over Dirk.
I just ended all that with, in my notes, Al is clearly in love.
Clearly. He knows everything about Dirk.
Yeah.
He's got a notebook with Al Pitt, trying the last name out.
Forever.
And to go back to generational changes, they mentioned Coney Island, which was where I would go if I wanted to see a dead body. It was about an hour walk from my house to Coney Island, and it was there was in the mid to late 80s and early 90s a crack epidemic.
Good old Coney Island College. Go Whitefish!
When people just died. They just took their drugs and died. And then you got to shoot the geek, which was they'd hire a homeless man and they'd put him in between two sites where there used to be like hot dog stands or something. There was a depression that they took out all of the dirt down past the foundation. So it was depressed and there was a lot of fencing around it. So you'd stand up on the fencing. The homeless guy would run around on the inside of the pit and you'd shoot him with paintballs for $1 to win like a rubber chicken or something. Different time.
Your country's amazing.
And it was back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. I swear, it wasn't that long ago.
That's that hustle grind set kids just don't have these days. Letting the wealthy hunt you for sport?
No, it was letting the poor hunt the ultra poor. It's the most American thing ever.
I know. It's the relatively wealthy. Because you have the rich who hunt the poor for sport, and the poor who apparently hunt the homeless, and the homeless who do crack. Well, maybe everyone did crack back then.
A shocking amount of people did drugs back then. I remember the first time I saw a friend of mine with cocaine, I was scandalized. Like, cocaine? How do you even get that? Like, it's a drug. You have to know somebody bad to get a drug. Nope, turns out you just have to be in the fashion industry.
Well, as we learned in the first book, there are boatloads of heroin arriving in America all the time. So I'm sure you can get coke.
There's enough drugs. So, and as we've established, there were a lot of prescription drugs going on in the 80s too. Like the
Dana's on benzos.
The Proto-Xanax. And people were having martinis for breakfast, scotch for lunch. It was a great time. Oh
yeah. That reminds me, this might seem like an odd segue, but while the submersible is going down, they spot a vampire squid, and in true boys will be boys fashion,
oh my God,
Pitt says, "Hey, that reminds me of your girlfriend." And then Rudy Gunn, who I forgot was on the submersible, pokes his head in and says, "The one with no boobs?" And Al just says, "Yeah, but her father keeps me floating in booze." And they just talk about booze for a while. And the weirdest thing happens in the audiobook at this point. For a few sentences, the pitch changes. It's like they put helium into the room. So I feel this was something they had to go back and re-record. But there's a couple of sentences explaining how this is just boys being boys and acting like this in order to, stave off the stress of being in a tube at the bottom of the ocean. And then the voice goes back to normal and the book continues. It's really weird.
I think everybody was emotionally dysregulated because they were undergoing substance withdrawal. It was hours since they've had a drink.
Yeah.
They've got to be a bit loopy. Maybe it's a combination of the Bens and the shakes, the DTs.
He doesn't have his girlfriend's dad's booze anymore.
Yeah. And they make it a point to point out that it's not worth it. He's not dating Miss Don Perignon. He's dating...
It's like Genghis Khan whiskey or something.
Susie 3030.
Shitty back alley tequila. Like, excellent name brands.
Yes. And just the ripping on this guy's girlfriend.
Well, he's there. Like, he's there as the comic relief. He's the Sam Rockwell of this book.
Yes. And also, chapter 36, we get a picture. I don't know if that was conveyed thoroughly.
My audiobook didn't get a picture. Ah.
I figured it didn't. Unless it was going to be a very impressive kind of audiobook. Like you have an implant?
I think that might be between chapter 36 and 37 because there is a huge time skip. But at the end of chapter 36, they find the number 1 smokestack.
Yes, it's the end of chapter.
Yeah, but that's also the beginning of chapter 37 there. So they find the number 1 smokestack. They find the boilers. They find the Titanic.
We're arguing an agreement. Yes, it's the end and the beginning. It's a flat circle.
I just mean, I think that picture is related to chapter 37. You're agreeing with me wrong. Stop it. But anyways, they find the Titanic. It's perfect. The paint is perfect. Everything's perfect. All the chairs are still there. And they find it at 11:42 a.m., which is 2 minutes after Dirk predicted they would find it.
Yes. 2 minutes after, so he doesn't get his Zinfandel. And I took the coordinates that they put in the book versus the coordinates that the actual Titanic was discovered. And Clive Cussler was 11.8 miles off.
Dang.
I was impressed.
I mean, they did know where it sank. They had the exact coordinates of where it sank from the various ships that rescued it. But that's still a big ocean. I'll call that pretty good.
Under 12 miles. Be impressed. That is fantastic. Way to go, Clive. And they find the Titanic. She's a little ship. And I say this like an idiot because a lot of people only see a ship when it's in water. If you haven't seen a ship out of water or completely, as it is described in this chapter completely underwater, which is a far more unlikely scenario.
It's a submarine.
Ships are huge.
Yeah.
Just breathtakingly, gobsmackingly.
A lot more of them is underwater than people think because it's made of metal, and the bigger it is, the more metal you have to use to strengthen it, and all of that metal is going to make it sit lower and displace more water, and if it displaces more water is pushing in on the sides. You need more metal to make it stronger. They're big.
It is, you feel like I stood next to, on a school trip, we went to visit an aircraft carrier that was in dry dock.
Ooh.
So we got to touch the very bottom.
I've never seen one.
It didn't feel like a human or any group of humans, no matter how smart or how advanced, could make something. It's so big. And I guess because of the nature of the shape, it's not a building. You see those every day. You're just immune to the majesty of it. It hits you like a slap. It's like being mugged in a meadow. It is so huge. It takes your breath away. And I wasn't next to the biggest boat that was ever in dry dock. I was next to an aircraft carrier, which is granted a giant ship, but it wasn't like a Fiesta cruise or Carnival Cruise Line is now.
Yeah.
Those are so huge.
And tall.
They're not classy. They're not good looking. But they are big. And it's an amazing feat of human achievement.
Mm-hmm.
That they would need so much light to realistically see underwater. So they lost me a little bit there. Like, how much lighting did you take under there? Do you have your ring lights? So you're going to have selfies?
Big headlamps, because the sea slug is a yellow tube with 2 giant lights poking up, like, I guess, sea slug eyes. It sounds very cute. I'll give it that. The sea slug sounds adorable.
Yes. And it does sound cute. And they slide up on a anglerfish as it crosses their line of sight. And I'd like to stick up for anglerfish here. They're adorable.
They're awesome.
If you're listening, anglerfish, you're not ugly. Not to me. I see the real you.
We see you.
But we do get, in this chapter,
not just a chapter, but a whole new section.
Yes, we're in part 4. After Regenesis, we're in part 4.
Yeah.
So 36 kind of slides into Regenesis.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Regenesis was its own chapter or what, because just in the middle of nowhere, the guy reading the book just goes, Regenesis, and then back to describing the Titanic. Like,
Oh,
where the hell did that come from?
smooth transition. Smooth. Wait, in the book, it's just, in the written book, it's just like, it's basically, there's cobwebs. I had to knock out the book. It was like, spooky. This is spooky. The lights dim. The Titanic. It's clearly filled with ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
Haunted up the wazoo. You're underwater. It's dark. That's the book made that noise, and it's a paperback.
It says you're not recording.
Oh no! What? It says I am recording. Here, I've got the green check.
On my end, it says user is experiencing some connection issues, but recording is being saved locally. So, I mean, it also still has the green check, but I'm not getting your little oscilloscope line. But it still says it's recording on your end. So. All right. I mean, if it's recording on your end, we'll just keep going, I guess, and hope for the best.
Okay, let's stop it here, because if it's not recording, we'll lose our place.
This actually is a full-sized episode, and I had 2 chapters I hope to get through, but maybe not.
Let's stop for now.
Okay.
And
I will hit sub 2.
Yeah, like dump.
This has been Cussler Hustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler Hustlers.